Hi everybody, in a previous episode of the Climate Explainers, we talked about ways in which we can reduce our carbon footprints. That is, reduce the amount of climate change causing greenhouse gases. Now, some of you responded saying, how fair is it that we individuals make all these changes while giant companies continue to contribute to climate change? Now, I understand the frustration. Did you know it was British Petroleum that first introduced the idea of calculating carbon footprints? Now, while this may seem like a positive step towards environmental responsibility, remember, this is British Petroleum we are talking about. It is one of the largest fossil fuel companies in the world. In 2022, its carbon emissions were 51.1 million tons. An average person emits 4 to 5 tons of carbon every year. So many see this initiative by BP as greenwashing. And that's another term that gets used so very often by scholars and civil society. We're going to explain it in more detail in a later episode. But for now, I want to bring in Pallavi to expand just a bit on what is greenwashing.
Well, greenwashing is simply a term used when companies make themselves appear more environmental friendly than they actually are, often to deflect attention from their negative impacts. So in this context, yes, carbon footprints can be seen as a way to shift burden and blame onto consumers, making them feel responsible for climate change. And in a way, shifting the onus onto the citizen, the consumer, instead of the big systemic changes needed in the fossil fuel industry or corporations. But here's the thing, when we make changes in our own lives, we not only make an immediate impact on our environment, but we also create a force for change. Our actions, small, tangible, consistent, can motivate others, people, leaders, companies to move towards climate action. With that in mind, we are focusing this episode on reducing carbon footprints through our food and diets.
Now, before we do that, I want to reiterate that food is your personal, individual choice. We are not here to suggest any diet or any food group. While research is still evolving on what the most environmentally friendly diet is, a good rule of thumb to go by is eat low down the food chain as often as you can. So that means more vegetables, more fruits, grains, and beans. Choose locally sourced and seasonal produce. Now, generally speaking, eating only locally grown food for 1 year would save the greenhouse gas equivalent of driving 1,600 kilometers. So, net-net, support local farmers. Reduce transportation emissions by opting for fruits and vegetables and other food products that are grown and harvested locally. For meat lovers, swapping meats like beef and lamb with chicken can make a difference. Or swap a few meals per week to vegetarian. I want to say this once again. Food is your personal, individual choice. But experts mostly agree that cutting down on meat, and red meat in particular, is a better choice for the environment. Why, do you ask? Well, because production of red meat uses a lot of feed, a lot of water and land. Cows themselves also give off methane emissions. What else? Well, you can try to reduce processed foods. Instead, choose whole foods. You can reduce packaging waste and the energy consumed during processing. If you can afford, try to source from brands that are actually prioritizing sustainable agricultural practices, which actually promote soil health, biodiversity, and water conservation. Another thing, when you buy food, look for eco-friendly packaging options that use minimal plastic or are made from sustainable materials. Carry a reusable water bottle, coffee cup, or grocery bags to minimize plastic waste. Speaking of which, there is one thing we can all agree on, and that is cutting down our food waste. And take home what is left of those oversized restaurant savings. I'm going to stop here. Remember, you can leave a comment wherever you're seeing this and tell us some ways in which you are trying to reduce your carbon footprint. If you've been watching from our entire team here, thank you so much for all your time.